Welcome. It's Dr. James Beckett here with Rich Klein, Sports Card Insights. We're going to talk about the Cleveland baseball team, which I guess is going to be like the Washington football team for at least maybe another year. But eventually they've got to have a team nickname, and it apparently is no longer going to be the Indians. And we're not going to do a lot of political commentary, but we're going to talk about what's next and what we think it could be, and are there any hobby implications about that might affect our sponsors. I'm not sure it affects our sponsors because the hobby's really strong right now and everybody's happy, but in Cleveland, not everybody's happy. But thanks Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, thanks Heritage Auctions, Huck the Scott Auctions, Burbank Sports Cards, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, as well as ComC.com and Beckett.com, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentication. So welcome, Rich. You read the headlines just as I did, the Cleveland blank. What's your take on that?
If I really wanted to be sardonic, I would say the Cleveland mistakes, because the old line about Lake Erie, the mistake by the lake.
Mistakes by the lakes, by the lake. It's the biggest city on Lake Erie.
Yes, it is.
Maybe they could be the Eries with a double E or something.
That'd be a fun nickname, or they could go back and maybe buy or whatever, do the Cleveland Naps again, or the Cleveland Spiders, or...
I like the Spiders better than the Naps.
Yes.
But I don't really like the Spiders. But it does have some historical, original connection.
If you want to really do historical, not just the Naps, but how about the Cleveland Speakers, in honor of the player manager who led them ever to their first World Series title?
Yeah. But he wasn't only an Indian.
No, he was a Red Sox and then an Indian, or Pilgrim or American or whatever they were before they became the Red Sox full time. Okay. And it's going to be interesting because most people are going to slip up during the year or the couple of years, still call them the Indians. On one level, it's going to have absolutely no impact on the hobby because the Indians were around for so long that you've got that 100+ years that they're known as the Indians. So that's there.
So you don't think there's a magical year thing, the episode we did, that would be for the first year that the Indians have a first year nickname, a new nickname? Any extra interest?
There might be. It's a great marketing tool, not for cards necessarily, but certainly for the
T-shirts,
memorabilia, for the uniforms, for the caps, for all the other assorted paraphernalia. That will be a killing is the wrong word. I don't like to use the word killing, but that will certainly be a financial boost. But I think cards are personally way down on the list of things it will affect. I think it's more the jersey. And then it would be interesting to do their all-time greats and put them into the current nickname jersey. I think that's an underrated way to really publicize it. I was kidding about Tris Speaker, but Jim Tomei from the 50s, Larry Doby, Bobby Avila, Bob Feller.
So like in the heritage sets or these where you could do short prints or variations, those would be really interesting. And they would stand out. It'd be obvious that this is fresh.
And you could even do that in the basic Topps set because Topps loves to do the SPs and the SSPs in those sets. So I think heritage, flagship Topps, a couple other products, I think that'd be a really cool way to do it. I think this is where Panini gets hurt by not having the full license and they can't use the full name of the team.
Okay, let's have a little tournament here for the names. And again, what the hobby would want, I think, and maybe I should say my punchline, but there needs to be something that I'd like to try to find something that's better, that draws another crowd or some additional interest. And so a copycat name like calling them the Cleveland Browns is just, that's not exciting to me. It's going to be confusing with, you had the New York Giants and the New York Giants back in the day, and that was confusing. But, so I don't see picking a name. Somebody, I think it was USA Today, had the Cleveland Blues, and I thought, it's the St. Louis Blues. You can't do the Cleveland Blues.
How about the Cleveland LeBrons?
The Cleveland LeBrons? Well, you're going to need to talk to LeBron about that. Maybe he probably has the copyright. Now, actually, that could increase memorabilia sales of certain things. Maybe LeBron cards.
Well, and in the 70s, this team doesn't exist anymore. You could always call them the Cleveland Barons, just like the old hockey team.
That's actually, but what would be the connection there? I don't even know why they were the Barons. Were they the shipping magnates of the Great Lakes?
I have no idea, but that would be as good as a guess as any. I mean, George Steinbrenner came from there, so the Cleveland Yankees. You can't obviously have two teams as the Yankees, but something like that. Okay,
I saw Cleveland Wild Things as homage to Major League.
Hey, whatever nickname they were in the Major League movie would actually be a great idea. I think they were the Indians in the movie. If you could come up with a tag to the Major League movies, I think that's a really good idea.
Okay. So you're not completely shooting that one down. I saw the Cleveland Lakers. Again, No deal. You kidding? Actually,
I'd rather be
Los
the, as I
Angeles
said, if I'm going
Lakers.
to basketball, I'd rather be the Cleveland LeBrons.
I know, but the Los Angeles Lakers, there's no lakes.
No,
They were the Minneapolis Lakers, which was the.
right. Well, actually, you do at Lake Erie. You are by the lake, but you don't want.
I
But
know, you don't want. Yeah.
everybody's so associated with the Lakers being basketball. That really wouldn't be the best thing.
So you're not going to open up a pack of cards and say, "Hey, I got some Lakers cards," and they're not going to think.
I think I'd get if I was an older card at West or Baylor or Chamberlain or Magic or James Worthy or now LeBron or AD or anybody like that or Kobe. There's so much history there for the LA Lakers, and the Minneapolis Lakers were people like Mike Ginn and Slater Martin and those people and Vern Mickelson.
Yeah, I saw one of the earliest ones was with Cleveland Fellers, and it was like after Bob Feller, and they actually said that he like invented the fastball or something, but he didn't invent the fastball. Somebody.
I thought Walter Johnson invented the fastball or Cy Young. He was nicknamed Cy Young because it was short for Cyclone because he threw the ball so hard. So I don't know if Bob Feller invented the fastball.
He didn't, but he popularized it or was a modern day fireballer. But Cy Young is from near Cleveland.
The Cleveland Youngsters?
Yeah, I like that. That's better than they also had Cleveland Elites, which I think is one of the Negro League nicknames.
Well, it's not terrible. It doesn't sound right. But if it's based on a Negro League team, I'll give that a little bit higher boost.
But it was a 1-year Negro League team, whereas the longer running one was the Buckeyes. Again, that's the Ohio State.
Right.
But do you have objection to the Buckeyes?
Not really. I think there was even a major league player, and I think he even played for Cleveland, named Garland Buckeye.
Buckeye.
And he was a 20s, 30s guy. So that was a while before either you or I were ever born. But, Buckeyes are okay.
They're really a fearsome mascot. I mean, Ohio State football.
At least that mascot won't be treated like Chief. It's Chief Wahoo.
Chief Wahoo is defunct. I think Chief Wahoo may be not coming back.
I think I saw where the last time he was on a card was 4 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, if you adopt the social concern for that population, the Chief Wahoo, especially the original Chief Wahoo caricature, was way more extreme than it was a few years ago. And now it's been retired.
Yeah, if I really wanted to stretch, I'd say the Cleveland McDaniels, based on Wahoo McDaniel, who was so popular in New York when he was playing football. Who made the tackle? Wahoo. And then he became a big wrestler. And his
big wrestler, yeah.
His 67 Topps card is a huge football card, but we're switching to football.
Yeah. Okay, so Cleveland Buckeyes, to me, that's a finalist.
That's not bad.
It's some historical legitimacy. Cleveland Spiders is also a finalist for me. University of Richmond's the only other one, and they were giant killers in basketball every so often in the tournament. But again, a Spider or a Buckeye does not strike fear or even passion, I don't think, of fans. So I have two that I really like.
Okay.
The first one I want to run by you because I don't think it'll fly, but it's the Cleveland Tribe.
If you got rid of Indians, since tribe implies Indians again, I don't think you can do that.
No, tribe, there's tribe implies anything tribal implies Africa. It implies Jewish heritage of tribe,
right?
As well as Native American. I grant you that, but it would be a backdoor way to keep when you show up at the park as in your African tribe or your Jewish tribe or your Indian tribe, and you would say, "See, we're equal opportunity."
I will say that our mutual podcast friend Brad Berthune, who's TX Card Dude, he always calls the people who listen to him his tribe. So
he's on board.
So there are legitimate applications of that word.
Okay. At any rate, that's kind of my facetious one, but I do like the Cleveland Rockers. And it's
that's not a bad idea. As long as we're not naming it after John Rocker, I think we'll be okay.
John Rocker would be at the other end of the political spectrum, I think. But no, the Cleveland Rockers, and I think it would tie in great. It would draw on another population. I think the hobby, as we have sports card insights here, baseball needs to be concentrating on increasing their general appeal to the broader audience. And there's been a lot of concerts that have been at ballparks, but to really lean into that, and you could have rocks, you could have rock and roll kinds of things. To me, that's better than the Mistakes by the Lakes.
Yeah, no kidding. Plus, I think you and I actually did. I presume it was a well-received podcast when we talked about music and sports cards.
Yeah,
so calling the Rockers actually makes quite a bit of sense.
To me, that's my number one, because I think it would, again, I think what we've seen this year in 2020 is baseball card collecting. It's mainly baseball, but it's been basketball leading the way. But sports card collecting has been moving farther and farther into the popular culture consciousness. And so rockers, spiders is retro. I don't think baseball needs to be worrying about retro. Tribe is, again, facetious. Buckeyes is already taken by Ohio State, which in unrelated news, it looks like the Supreme Court is going to be looking at whether the Buckeyes are going to be also professional in some sense with the Ohio State University in some of the revenue sports.
I think that's a topic for a future conversation, but I think that eventually, we're going to return in the next couple of years to having cards of college athletes again produced, because the athletes may not be able to wear their uniforms, but who would not want to have a Trevor Lawrence card right now?
I agree. So then you get an Ohio State Buckeye card and you get a Cleveland Buckeye card. So I think Buckeye is. So I'm still looking at the other thing that I saw is that the Buckeyes, again, was the Negro League team from 42 to 50 that was there. And Cleveland, the Indians, that franchise has the distinction of the first black manager in the American League and the first black player in Larry Doby, both Hall of Famers. Yeah, I would think. So what is your verdict here?
I like the Rockers. I thought that was, I had not really dug deep, but that's a really good suggestion.
What about second place? Because that's my strong first. That's my strong first.
I'll agree with you on that one, because you're not necessarily walking distance, but real close to the Rock Hall. And so I know a lot of the times when I used to go to shows in Cleveland, and if it was anywhere downtown, there'd always be a trip to the Rock Hall included. I think I went there 3 or 4 times because it was such a cool place. And back when they had the National, there would always be an event or two at the Rock Hall. It was a great place to do things. And I could spend 6 to 7 hours in the main exhibit downstairs.
Cleveland, I've had some great collecting friends there. The shows there were great. I'm disappointed that the IX Center is not going to be there. But Cleveland is a great hobby town, and there's some huge positives associated with that. And I'd love to see how about the Cleveland collectors?
I will say that, and I understand why, but the Cleveland conventions, they had the National I believe, not the National, they had Fan Fest at the Cleveland Convention Center downtown. And I remember driving from the suburbs there when I went for Fan Fest in 97. I went to the All-Star game. A friend of mine got me tickets, so I took a vacation and went up there. And I will say that's one of the few downtowns you could actually get away with running a show in.
That would be.
Because they were able to do the Fan Fest, and there was no real trouble finding a parking space, driving in. It was actually pretty easy.
Okay. What's your number one choice?
I'll agree with you. We'll do Rockers, and we hope that our wisdom gets matched by what Major League Baseball does.
Okay. Stay tuned, collectors and listeners. We'll see what Cleveland decides. In fact, we'll find out what the Washington football team decides, too. That's a separate matter. The team mascot or logo, those kinds of things are important. And as Rich and I discussed a long time ago, the imagery on the cards and the connection, it's a very visual hobby. So I'm hoping they'll pick something.
Think about, and I'll leave you with this, that if they call the Rockers, think about the race they do with like Washington where they have the presidents. You could have somebody dressed up like Elvis Presley and John Lennon and a modern star and a fourth person. And you can even rotate people in and out, Bruce Springsteen, and rotate some guys in and out, and just let them have the daily run dressed up as one of the Rockers. Yes. And again, we're showing our age, but there's also younger rockers. I just think they could go with the music theme. And rock has a definition that's more expansive than it used to be when it started. So I should remind you, they're not exactly using the 4 current presidents when they have the race in Washington Nationals. So It's okay on that one to show your age a little. There'd be a lot of booing if they did. Everybody's against one of the more recent presidents. Yeah, it's better to stay with the traditionals. Okay. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, everybody. We'll be back again tomorrow with another episode in Cleveland to make a great choice that is of interest. Try to please everybody. So let's leave it at that. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, everybody. Be back tomorrow. The man in the house of cards. The man in the house of cards. The man in the house of cards is 20.